More than 2,000 Russian artillery systems were taken out of action in just 1 month. And that may be only the visible part of a much larger campaign. According to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, Russian forces lost or had disabled 2,074 artillery systems during June, the highest monthly figure since the full-scale war began. At the same time, tens of thousands of military vehicles, fuel tankers, tanks, armored vehicles, and air defense systems were also reportedly struck. Behind those numbers is a broader effort to slow Russian firepower, disrupt logistics, and make damaged weapons much harder to return to the battlefield. For Moscow, artillery is more than just another weapon. It provides the steady fire behind offensive operations, shields advancing infantry, and remains one of Russia's main tools for wearing down Ukrainian defenses over time. When artillery is hunted together with ammunition trucks, fuel tankers, supply depots, and air defense systems, a single battlefield loss can grow into pressure across the entire military network that keeps Russian forces operating. Kyiv also says it has used a specialized munition designed to damage artillery barrels from the inside, while continued strikes on ammunition depots, command posts, and supply routes are extending pressure deeper into Russia's rear areas. But the war is also striking back at Ukrainian cities. Russian air attacks have destroyed a humanitarian warehouse and caused an environmental incident in Kyiv after fuel and lubricants reportedly entered a local lake through the city's drainage system. So why are 2,074 artillery systems such an important number for Russia? And if artillery is the backbone of Moscow's firepower, how is Ukraine trying to weaken it? Let's take a closer look on military force. Ukraine says June became the hardest month of the war for Russian artillery. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, its forces destroyed or disabled 2,074 Russian artillery systems during that month, the highest monthly figure since the full-scale invasion began. Kyiv says this equals more than 110 standard artillery battalions, giving the claim operational weight. For Russia, artillery is not a side weapon. It is one of the main tools Moscow uses to shape the battlefield. Guns and rocket systems break trenches, damage bunkers, cut tree lines, and keep Ukrainian units under pressure every day. Russian assaults depend on this fire support because troops need cover before they cross open ground. Without that cover, an attack becomes slower, more exposed, and easier to break apart before it reaches Ukrainian positions. That is why the word disabled matters almost as much as destroyed. A destroyed gun is a clear loss, but a disabled one can still change the fight. It may need to leave its firing position. It may need a new barrel, new parts, or a repair crew. It may also need inspection before it can fire again. Even a short pause can matter when a planned assault depends on precise timing, because infantry, drones, and armor may already be moving while the artillery piece that should protect them is suddenly silent on that axis at the front. During that time, the weapon is not supporting Russian soldiers at the front. This pressure affects tempo. If fewer guns are ready, commanders may have to choose which sector receives fire support and which one waits. Some attacks may begin with weaker cover, others may need more time to prepare. Ukrainian defenders can use those pauses to move ammunition, rotate soldiers, improve positions, or bring drones into better observation points. The issue is not whether Russia still has artillery. Moscow still has large stocks, repair capacity, and experience using mass firepower. The issue is how easily that firepower can be kept active under repeated Ukrainian strikes. Every damaged gun creates a practical problem. It needs movement, parts, workers, transport, and protection. Each step takes time and exposes more of the system behind the weapon. This is the deeper meaning of the June figure. Ukraine is not only trying to count destroyed guns for a daily report, it is trying to reduce the number of Russian systems that can fire when needed most. It also forces artillery crews to think about survival before impact, because staying longer in one position can invite another drone, another adjustment, or another strike. But artillery cannot hold its power alone. Behind every firing position is a chain of trucks, fuel, ammunition routes, repair teams, and storage points that must keep moving under pressure. While tanks and artillery often dominate battlefield headlines, Ukraine's June figures point to another pressure point in Russia's war machine. According to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, Russian forces lost or had disabled 12,878 military vehicles and fuel tankers in June alone. If accurate, this was not just a record of destroyed transport. It was a sign that Ukraine is treating logistics as a direct battlefield target. These vehicles may not look as dramatic as tanks, but they carry the weight of the war every day. They move shells, fuel, spare parts, food, water, medical supplies, communications equipment, batteries, and fresh personnel. Without them, frontline units can still hold weapons, but their ability to fight begins to shrink. The longer that pressure continues, the more each missing vehicle becomes part of a larger operational problem. A Russian artillery unit cannot keep firing if shells arrive late. A tank formation cannot move far if fuel trucks are destroyed before reaching refueling points. Infantry units cannot stay effective if water, ammunition, batteries, and evacuation vehicles are delayed. In that sense, a truck is not just a support vehicle. It is part of the fighting system. This is why the June number matters. If thousands of vehicles were struck in 1 month, the damage would not be limited to single roads or isolated convoys. It would spread through schedules, repair cycles, fuel planning, ammunition distribution, and troop movement. A destroyed tanker can slow several vehicles. Each lost supply truck can weaken more than one position. Each disrupted convoy can force commanders to change plans before an attack even begins. That kind of delay may look small at first, but across a long front, small delays can become a serious military constraint. Ukraine's reported logistics lockdown campaign sits at the center of this shift. Its goal is to attack the network behind Russian combat units, including ammunition depots, transport vehicles, fuel storage sites, command posts, repair points, supply roads, and other logistics hubs in the operational rear. The purpose is not only to create explosions, it is to make Russia's rear area less stable, less predictable, and harder to manage. This kind of pressure works through accumulation. One strike may damage a warehouse. Another may hit vehicles waiting near a road. A third may target a command or supply point that coordinates movement. On their own, these attacks may not decide a battle. Together, they create friction across the system. Supplies move slower. Routes become more exposed. Commanders must spend more time protecting the movement of basic military needs. For Russia, adaptation is possible, but it is costly. Convoys can be split into smaller groups. Routes can be changed. More vehicles can move at night. Warehouses can be pushed farther from the front. Escort vehicles, electronic warfare systems, and air defense units can be assigned to protect supply lines. But every answer brings another burden. Smaller convoys move less cargo. Longer routes burn more fuel. Night movement is slower and harder to coordinate. Extra escorts reduce the number of assets available elsewhere. This is the deeper effect Ukraine is trying to create. The target is not only the vehicle itself. The target is the confidence that a supply movement can be completed safely and on time. Every fuel truck leaving a depot, every ammunition convoy heading toward artillery positions, and every reinforcement vehicle moving closer to the front may now have to assume that it is being watched. Once logistics is pulled into the danger zone, the front begins to feel the pressure. Tanks may wait longer for fuel. Artillery may fire less often. Infantry may receive fewer supplies at the moment they need them most. And from there, the pressure moves toward the systems Russia uses to protect the entire network, including armored vehicles and air defense. Ukraine's June figures show that the pressure on Russian forces did not stop with artillery and logistics. According to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, Russian forces also lost or had disabled 103 tanks, 197 armored combat vehicles, and 60 air defense systems during the same month. These numbers matter because they point to different layers of Russia's war machine. Tanks and armored vehicles create direct pressure on the ground, while air defense protects the wider network behind them. Tanks still have an important role on the Ukrainian battlefield. They support infantry, fire at defensive positions, cover assaults, and help Russian units move through exposed areas. Armored combat vehicles also matter because they carry troops closer to the front while offering protection against small arms, fragments, and some battlefield threats. In many Russian attacks, armor is used to bring infantry forward, keep pressure on Ukrainian positions, and give assault groups a better chance of reaching trenches, buildings, or tree lines. But every tank or armored vehicle lost reduces that pressure. Russia can still attack without armor, but the attack changes. Infantry may have to move with less protection. Assault groups may depend more on motorcycles, ATVs, light vehicles, modified civilian transport, or small foot movements. These methods can be faster and more scattered, but they do not bring the same firepower or protection. This creates a difficult balance for Russia. Heavy armor brings more force to an assault, but it also creates larger and more visible targets. Lighter vehicles may reduce the size of each target, but they expose troops to drones, mines, artillery, and small arms fire. The more armored losses grow, the more Russian commanders may be forced to mix different methods, using small groups to test routes while saving heavier vehicles for specific moments. That makes the battlefield more fragmented, but it also shows how equipment losses can shape tactics. Russia may still generate pressure, yet that pressure can become thinner. Instead of one heavier push, commanders may have to rely on repeated small movements. This can create confusion for defenders, but it can also slow the speed of an operation and increase the burden on coordination. The reported loss of 60 Russian air defense systems is especially important. Air defense does not only defend the sky in a narrow sense. It protects ammunition depots, fuel points, radar sites, command posts, artillery positions, repair areas, troop concentrations, and supply roads. It also helps shield the rear area where Russia prepares the next phase of combat. Modern warfare depends on protection in depth. A tank near the front needs fuel from the rear. Artillery needs ammunition from storage sites. Commanders need communications, radar coverage, and protected headquarters. Logistics units need roads and collection points that can operate without constant disruption. Air defense is one of the layers that helps keep that system alive. If it weakens, the risk spreads into depots, convoys, gun lines, and staging areas. Ukraine's approach appears aimed at these connections. Artillery systems provide firepower. Logistics keeps that firepower supplied. Tanks and armored vehicles create ground pressure. Air defense protects the network that supports all of them. By striking several layers at once, Ukraine is not only trying to reduce Russian numbers. However, the next layer of the story goes beyond the number of systems hit. The more important question is whether damaged Russian equipment can be repaired and returned to the battlefield quickly enough to replace what has already been lost. The reported Artashin operation adds another layer to Ukraine's campaign against Russian firepower. According to Ukrainian officials, including Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine used a specialized munition designed to damage artillery barrels from the inside. Kyiv says the operation disabled around 250 Russian artillery pieces in 2 nights. If accurate, the method may matter as much as the number. Ukraine was not only trying to hit Russian guns, it was trying to make them harder to repair and slower to return to combat. The center of this story is the barrel. To a casual viewer, an artillery system may look like one large weapon, but the barrel is one of its most critical parts. Every time a gun fires, the barrel must handle extreme pressure, heat, and force. A shell leaves the weapon at high speed, and the inside of the barrel must remain strong, straight, and stable. If that part is cracked, bent, weakened, or damaged from within, the gun may become unsafe for its own crew. Not all battlefield damage is equal. A damaged wheel or external component may be repaired if parts and time are available, but barrel damage is different. If the barrel loses its shape or internal strength, the weapon may lose accuracy. Worse, it may become dangerous to fire. A gun that explodes, jams, or misfires can kill its operators before it hits any enemy target. That is why this munition points to a more specific Ukrainian objective. Kyiv appears to be moving from simply damaging Russian artillery toward keeping it out of service for longer. In an attrition war, that difference matters. A lightly damaged gun may return after repair. A gun with serious barrel damage may need inspection, replacement parts, workshop time, and transport away from the front. For Russia, the timing is also significant. Artillery remains one of its main tools for applying pressure across the front. Russian forces use guns to attack trenches, support infantry, break defensive positions, and cover assaults. If many artillery systems are disabled in a short period, commanders may have fewer guns available for routine fire missions. The deeper effect is operational. When artillery pieces need repair, they leave the firing line. When damaged guns cannot be trusted, crews may hesitate to use them at full intensity. When replacement barrels are limited, repair units must choose which weapons return first. Artashin therefore fits into a broader Ukrainian logic. The goal is not only to destroy equipment at impact, it is to increase the cost of recovery. If Russia must spend more time moving damaged guns, inspecting barrels, finding parts, and rebuilding artillery units, then every disabled system becomes more than a single loss. This is a shift from short-term damage to longer battlefield removal. In a war where both sides measure endurance, time in a repair depot becomes part of the fight. And Artashin does not appear as an isolated operation. It follows a wider Ukrainian pattern, using drones and specialized methods at scale to target the weapons Russia depends on most. Ukraine says Artashin did not appear from nowhere. It was developed from an earlier operation known as Armashan, which reportedly used large numbers of drones to attack Russian armored equipment. That model focused on tanks, armored vehicles, and other assault platforms Russia depends on to push troops toward Ukrainian positions. Artashin shows how Ukraine is now applying similar logic to artillery, one of the main sources of Russian battlefield pressure. Armashan showed that drones could be used not only for isolated strikes, but for a larger campaign against one category of Russian equipment. If enough tanks and armored vehicles are damaged, Russian commanders may struggle to form stronger assault groups. They may rely more on lighter vehicles, small infantry teams, or slower advances. The shift matters because armor and artillery play different roles. Armored vehicles help Russia move soldiers closer to the front, protect assault groups, and create direct pressure on Ukrainian defenses. Artillery works in a wider and more constant way. It can hit trenches, roads, buildings, supply points, and troop concentrations across many sectors. Even when Russian infantry is not advancing, artillery can keep pressure on Ukrainian units and limit their movement. Artashin takes the earlier drone model and moves it toward the artillery problem. Instead of focusing mainly on vehicles that carry troops forward, Ukraine is now aiming at guns that prepare the battlefield before those troops move. Artillery is not tied to one single assault. It supports the entire rhythm of the front. It shapes when Russian units attack, how long they maintain pressure, and how much danger Ukrainian positions face before ground forces arrive. This also shows how drones are becoming more organized in Ukraine's way of fighting. They are no longer only weapons of opportunity used when a target suddenly appears. They are increasingly part of a planned system with clear target groups. Reconnaissance drones search for guns, vehicles, depots, roads, command points, and air defense positions. FPV drones and strike drones then attack weak points. Specialized munitions can make certain damage harder to repair. At the same time, logistic strikes push danger deeper into Russia's rear area. The larger pattern is a multi-layer attack model. One layer finds the target, another layer hits it. Another layer tries to make the damage last longer. A wider logistics campaign then makes repair, replacement, and movement more difficult. This does not require every strike to be decisive by itself. The pressure comes from connection. A damaged gun needs transport. Transport needs fuel. Fuel needs protected routes. Routes need air defense. When one layer is hit, the others become more exposed. A damaged depot can slow resupply. A destroyed air defense system can expose rear areas. If these effects happen together, the result is not just a list of destroyed equipment. It becomes pressure on Russia's ability to keep the war moving across the front. The wider effect of Ukraine's June campaign should be read carefully. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense argues that repeated strikes on Russian artillery, logistics vehicles, ammunition depots, and command posts are weakening Moscow's ability to sustain firepower and supply at the front. That does not mean Russia is close to losing its ability to fight. It means Ukraine is trying to make Russian combat power slower, more expensive, and harder to maintain over time. This pressure may not appear immediately on a battlefield map. A village may not change hands in one day. A front line may still look frozen. But behind that line, the system can begin to absorb stress. Russian artillery may fire less often in certain areas. Supply convoys may arrive later than planned. Ammunition depots may be moved farther from the front. Air defense units may be spread across more locations. Attacks may take longer to prepare because fuel, shells, and replacement vehicles are harder to move safely. That is why the campaign should be understood as pressure on tempo, not a single decisive blow. Russia may still launch attacks, but each attack can require more planning, more protection, and more resources. At the same time, the war continues to hit Ukrainian cities far from the front. During a large Russian air attack on Kyiv, a humanitarian warehouse of the Ukrainian Red Cross was completely destroyed. It reportedly contained more than 320,000 aid packages. That loss shows how the war reaches beyond military targets and damages the civilian systems that help people survive. The same attack also created an environmental danger. After a fire at an industrial facility, fuel and lubricants reportedly entered Lake Kirilivske through the city drainage system. This connects the military and civilian sides of the war in one frame. At the front, drones are wearing down weapons, logistics, and command networks. In the rear, missiles, UAVs, fires, and industrial damage continue to pressure civilians, emergency services, and humanitarian groups. Ukraine is trying to weaken Russia's military machine by attacking the systems that sustain it, while Russia continues to strike cities, infrastructure, and civilian support networks. The two struggles are different, but they unfold at the same time and shape the same war. So the story of June is not only about the number of Russian systems hit. It is about a wider contest between firepower, logistics, technology, and endurance on both sides. June should not be read only as a table of losses. If Ukraine's numbers reflect the real trend, Kyiv is striking the wider network that keeps Russian military power alive. Artillery provides firepower. Military vehicles and fuel tankers keep supplies moving. Air defense protects the system. Drone operations help Ukraine connect detection with attack faster than before. Artashin adds another layer to that pressure. It shows that Ukraine is not only trying to increase Russian losses, it is trying to make those losses harder to repair. A damaged barrel, a burned fuel truck, or a displaced air defense system can all slow the rhythm of Russia's army. The strategic impact still needs time to measure. Russia has reserves, repair capacity, and room to adapt. But if this trend continues, Moscow may pay a higher cost to sustain the same pressure. The deeper question is not only how many guns Russia has left, but how many can be supplied, protected, repaired, and kept firing. Before you go, Please subscribe to Military Force if you enjoy clear and fact-based analysis of today's biggest military and geopolitical events. Every battle teaches more than tactics and technology. It also reminds us of the human and economic cost that every war leaves behind. Stay informed, keep asking difficult questions, and join us again for our next report.